Good morning, student friends. Up till now, we have seen in this second unit as a green sand molding process and shell molding process. Today, we will see investment casting process. The meaning of word investment is to apply a special coat or is to apply a special coating. That is the meaning of investment casting process. In ancient Egypt, this process is used in the manufacturing of jewelry, pectoral, and idols like items where maximum accuracy and surface finish was expected. This investment casting process is also called as a lost wax process because we are using wax as a pattern material in this process, and some of the wax is going to lost in the form of vaporization during that process. That's why this process is also called as a lost wax process. Here is pattern is needed for every casting process. We have know that if I have to manufacture a single casting, I need to make a pattern. Here we are using wax as a pattern material in investment casting process, and up till now whatever processes we have seen, that is green sand molding process or shell molding process, maximum accuracy and surface finish you will achieve in this particular process. Here initially patterns are made by injecting wax or polystyrene in metal dies. Here metal dies are present which are in the two parts, and under a high pressure we have to inject a wax by using wax injection machine into the metal dies, and this process is used to prepare the pattern. This is the first step, wax injection. Here you can see that at the center you are seeing the shape of the pattern, and this outside box like structure is called as a metallic dies. Here dies are made in hulls, means it is in the two part, and under a high pressure the wax is injected into the die to prepare the pattern. Afterwards, number of patterns are attached to a central common sprue to form a assembly. By using wax welding technique, assembly of the various patterns is made to this common sprue. This common sprue and all these patterns are everything is made up of wax or polystyrene, but maximum time we are using wax as a pattern material. Now by looking at this assembly of the pattern, you are making a judgment that this process is suitable for the mass production. Means at a time you can see by particular this assembly of the pattern, at a time we can manufacture 8 different castings. Now this mold is prepared by surrounding the pattern with refractory slurry that can set at a room temperature. Now here this is the preparation of the mold cavity. Whatever assembly is made out of that wax pattern is dipped inside this specially formulated slurry mixture. Now this is one bath. In that bath this specially formulated slurry mixture is made, in which dipping of that assembly of the pattern is carried out. After dipping, uniform coat of that refractory slurry material is obtained. Refractory slurry materials are uniform coat we are giving on the surface of this common sprue and this pattern assembly. Now afterwards dewax process is there. Now this mold is prepared by surrounding pattern with refractory slurry that can set at room temperature. The mold is then heated so that pattern melts and flows out, leaving a clean cavity behind. Now after formation of shell on the surface of this pattern assembly, we have to carry out heating. After heating, at the bottom one small hole is provided. Through that hole a complete wax goes out. This process is called as a dewax. Now during heating some of the wax is evaporated to the environment. That's why this process is called as a lost wax process. And here we are carrying out a coating of specially formulated slurry mixture on the surface of this pattern assembly. That's why this process is called as an investment casting process. Investment means to apply a special coat. Now after dewax, the mold is further hardened by heating and the molten metal is poured while it is in still hot condition. Now this after dewax, this mold is placed inside the oven where further curing of this mold cavity is carried out. Now after removing from the oven, in the heated condition only pouring is carried out. In the heated condition of the mold cavity pouring is carried out so that temperature drop of that metal will be less. Temperature drop होणार नाही, which is possible in case of green sand molding. Green sand molding मध्ये molten metalचा temperature drop होईल because that mold is poured in a green condition. Green condition means presence of water, and that water will absorb the heat from molten metal. but here pouring is carried out in the heated condition. That's why maximum flowability to the metal is achieved, and this feature we can use to prepare the intricate or complicated parts. Now after solidification after solidification, this shell will be broken down. Whatever covering of that investment material is there, or that mold cavity is there, that is automatically broken down. Now after breaking of that, we have to remove the gates. These are small gates which is attached to this common sprue, and we have to remove this casting, and they are used for further processing. This is finished casting. No secondary machining is required. Very high quality surface finish and accuracy you will achieve by using this process. When the casting is solidified, the mold is broken and casting is taken out. In case of shell molding process and this investment casting process, you are getting a maximum collapsibility. Maximum collapsibility means very less efforts you have to apply to break the mold, and you will get very less collapsibility in case of green sand molding. Means you have to apply more efforts to remove the casting. Like green sand molding and shell molding, this process is also expendable casting process. Expendable casting process means this mold cavity is designed for a single use. Now here you will see production of heat disposable wax, plastic or polystyrene patterns. By using wax injection technique, patterns are made, and all these patterns are joined together to a common sprue, which is also made up of wax or polystyrene, by using a wax welding technique. Assembly of these patterns onto the gating system, investing or applying of a suitable covering on the surface of pattern with a refractory slurry. This is the third step, in which coating of refractory slurry uniformly on the surface of the assembly of this pattern is carried out. And after coating, de-wax process will take place, means removal of the wax, and during removal of the wax, we have to some of the wax is lost to the environment due to evaporation. That's why this process is called as a lost wax process. Melting the pattern assembly to remove the pattern material. Here wax is removed by a heating, means pattern is removed by a heating. That's why shake or wrapping allowance is not required in case of investment casting process. But in case of green sand molding process, while removing the pattern, we have to shake the flask from all its 4 sides. That's why shake or wrapping allowance is required in case of green sand molding, but it is not required in case of this investment casting process. Pattern is removed by melting. That is the feature of this investment casting process. Or sometimes evaporation of the pattern material will also takes place. Firing the mold to remove the last stresses of pattern material. We have to fire the mold. For that purpose, that mold is placed inside the oven, where firing of the mold takes place. At the same time, last stresses of the pattern material will be disposed of or will be removed. Now after curing of that pattern, after curing of that mold cavity, now that mold is ready for pouring operation. This step indicates pouring of the molten metal inside the mold. After pouring and after 15 to 20 minutes, solidification of the metal takes place, and knockout, cut off and finishing. Knockout means cutting of the mold cavity, cut off means removal of the gates from the casting, and finishing means use of wire brush or grinder to carry out final finishing. Advantages: parts of great complexity and intricacy can be cast, which is not possible in case of green sand molding or shell molding process. We are getting close dimensional accuracy and good surface finish. Wax can usually be recovered for use. In the de-wax process, whatever wax will come out from the assembly of the pattern as well as common sprue, that wax we can reuse for the next process or for the next cycle. Disadvantage: here many steps are involved. You can see near about 7 steps are there. That's why it is a time consuming process and relatively expensive. In here we have to use many steps. Again, oven is required for curing of the metal. That's why this process is expensive process, but it is applicable for the manufacturing of jewelry items. Again, surgical instruments, pectorals or idols, these are the application of investment casting process. Now we will stop here. In the next lecture we will see other process.